Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another watch list. Basically, think of this as a monthly TV guide for me to let you know what and when TV shows that I'm interested in, that maybe you're interested in, are coming out. Like always, in the description down below, I'll include links to any trailers that might be available to anything that I bring up during this watch list. On November 7th on Showtime, we have Dexter New Blood. This being a reboot slash continuations. It is a new series, maybe limited series. I think that just depends on how well this season plays out, but it is picking up after the events of the final season of Dexter, so it's kind of like getting a continuation of his story. Obviously, there's a conversation about people not being happy about how Dexter ended. I've actually never seen the final season. I know like some of what goes down in the final episodes, but not the grand context. I just like when it was originally airing, I only saw like maybe one episode of the final season. I just got distracted with other stuff, and I've just never watched it. So I figured I might. So I was planning on rewatching the entire show, but I remember a good chunk of it. I guess at some point I should rewatch the entire show, but I'm probably just going to watch the final season for the first time. But I'm excited to see. Obviously, like a lot of the trailer, it's just kind of like Dexter's new life after the events. We get hints to certain things I know that go down in the series finale that I'm like, I see hints to it in the trailer. I won't point it out for anyone that hasn't seen the final season. Maybe you're waiting, or maybe you're catching up on the show now in preparation, so I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that has avoided any spoilers over the years. But I'm excited to see what happens. On November 14th on Paramount Plus, we have a new series called Mayor of Kingstown. So looking at the trailer, I'm not fully sure what it is because we have all these different characters. It seems almost like a Blue Bloods thing where like this entire family is people related to law enforcement, but it seems like they skew on the other side because like I think their mom describes it as like, oh, you guys are you're fixers, and almost like they borderline gangsters sometimes. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like, oh, you're a gang with a badge, or whether it's just a situation of like they just cross the lines here and there, but now they find themselves in a circumstance where they're crossing that line even more. But very interesting cast. Character played by Jeremy Renner is like the actual mayor, I think, while the rest of his family is in law enforcement. I could be mistaken because I think that is where the title of the episode, but that could be like a, it might not be a literal like, oh, he's mayor. It might be a fictitious like, oh, he's, no, I think that is it. I think, well, I think the fictitious element to it is because he's treated like the mayor, like that's his nickname, or he might actually be the mayor. I don't remember the context of it, but either way, I'm fine with being confused. Watching the show, I'll fully understand the context of everything, but it seems really interesting, so I'm excited to check it out. Also on November 14th on Showtime, we have this new series called Yellowjackets, which seems really interesting. It's this drama where basically, I think a plane accident happened, and these, I don't know what they were they cheerleaders or something, I want to say, and they were like in high school, and they ended up crashing on an island, and this is basically them years later after that whole experience. So we're kind of flashing back to what their experiences were on the islands, because there was a lot of secrets. It seems like they got mixed up in something going on the island. I don't know whether it's just straight up murder and cannibalism, because I don't know if that's what it is, but it seemed like there was like some like cult level stuff that went down, and basically now years later, some of those people, because some of them died while others survived, and those survivors are being like targeted by someone who knows what they were up to in the past, and so after all these years they have to kind of come together, even though they kind of lived their respective lives, and they kind of put this behind them. But it's like, yeah, the past doesn't stay dead. So just from what we saw of the trailer, my understanding of it, it seems really, really interesting. So a lot of familiar faces in this show, like actors you've seen in other stuff. On November 16th on the CW, we had the season 8 premiere of The Flash, which I'm excited about. Based on what we know so far, like, and on the trailer, the first 5 episodes of The Flash are going to be a crossover, Armageddon, which is pretty dope, because obviously we didn't get a crossover last year. There was supposed to be one, but pandemic and all that stuff, I think other contributing factors as well. But yeah, Barry's got to go up against a new challenge, and he's not just going to have Team Flash by his side. If you haven't seen the trailer, a few other familiar faces in the Arrowverse pop up, which is pretty dope. It seems like the difference between this and other crossovers, which usually is like, oh, it's one episode of all these different shows. I think this entire crossover is specifically allocated to The Flash. Like the first 5 episodes of this season are going to be allocated to this crossover. That's my understanding of it. Because why would it be in a season 8 Flash trailer if it was, you know, more Arrowverse connected? You know, it'd be kind of its own separate thing. But regardless, I'm very excited. I mean, for a new season of The Flash. Also, you know, what's awaiting Barry this season, as well as just what this crossover entails. Also on November 16th, also on the CW, we have the season 6 premiere of Riverdale, which I'm excited to see what goes down this season. A lot of stuff was resolved, but obviously there was a lot of relationships took different directions. Obviously, like everyone returning to Riverdale after that 7-year time skip, but a lot of stuff was resolved. But I think there's a lot with Betty in particular about her time at the FBI, TVK and everything. I think that'll probably be a bigger thing going forward this season, but also like the relationships between the characters, as well as Cheryl, I think is going to be a big force this season because of some revelations about her family came out like near the end of last season and how she feels about it. And like how she feels about certain people she's come to know, specifically Archie, Jughead, and Betty, in particular their family. So it's going to be interesting to see what that means this season. And with that in context, there was something I kind of got spoiled for me. I won't say what it is, but there was the context of a certain character popping up this season. I was like, oh man, I wish I went into this season not knowing that. But with the correlation of like what's going on with Cheryl's story, it almost seems befitting to have this character in there, which I'm like, it's probably not, I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't want to give context, but I don't think it's like a one-for-one thing of like, oh, this character associated with something else. I don't think it's that version of that character, but it's played by the same actor or actress. I don't want to say too much, but I'm already giving stuff away, but I'm like, man, I wish I didn't know that was happening. But regardless, I'm excited to see what this season has in store for us. On November 17th on Hulu, we have the new series, Marvel's HitMonkey, which I'm very excited about. It's a new animated series that follows essentially a monkey who gets possessed by the spirit of an assassin who, well, was killed, and they're together. And so like this assassin now acts as kind of a ghost as this monkey goes out to get revenge for the hitman, like to kill the people that killed him. But it becomes more so, no, like this monkey wants to kill the bad guy. So it just seems like a wild, bloody, and just fun show from what we've seen in the trailer. I'm super pumped to see what goes down. Obviously, once again, as Marvel implies, this is a Marvel character that, once again, my understanding is hasn't popped up a lot in the comic books, because it's also a newish character, because he first came into the Marvel universe in like 2010. It's kind of around the time he first appears. So I'm excited. Like I brought up before, it feels, at least to me, and this is the example I keep going for, it feels like Deadpool meets Archer, which it's just an amazing combination. On November 19th on Netflix, we had the Cowboy Bebop live action series, which I'm really excited about. I know some people are here and there about like adaptations. I'm usually enjoy most adaptations, but yeah, I'm excited. I am someone who has watched Cowboy Bebop, but do know it's been years. I think I've saw bits and pieces here and there like over the years, but I've not watched it since I was a kid. Well, rather like early teen or whatever. But so I'm going into this with some memories of what went down in Cowboy Bebop. I don't want to rewatch the original anime just to like prepare for this, because it's going to be doing its own thing while referencing some of the stuff. Because the thing about Cowboy Bebop that I remember always being a standout is like, the show is mostly like episodical. Like there's just adventures and there's growth and stuff like here and there amongst the characters, but the stories are like episodical. It's not till you get like to the near the last couple episodes when you get like the main plot revolving around Spike in his past. So, but anyway, like just from when I did kind of get that vibe and feel from the I'm really just excited to see this, because they are probably are adapting certain things from the show while also probably still doing their own thing, which I think within the nature of what Cowboy Bebop is, you still could. So I'm still excited to see, what it has in store for us. Also on November 19th, also on Netflix, we have a new series called Hellbound. Essentially, it's this world where basically when it's your time, these shadowy creatures come and grab you. Now, whether it's just like, it seems like this is almost like a design in this world where everyone is aware of this going on. I'm not really sure what the full story is, but I guess it's like trying to stop this from happening, because it's like when it's your time, these things come for you. It's just like, I guess, just the nature of this world. This is an adaptation of a webtoon manhwa. It might just be a manhwa, but I think it's considered a webtoon. Either way, I've never read the manhwa either way, but it seems pretty interesting from what we've seen. It feels almost like in that, it's not a one-for-one, but it feels like it could be in that Death Note vein a little bit. But I'm really interested to check the series. Also on November 19th on Amazon Prime Video, we have a new series called The Wheel of Time. the Wheel of Time. It made it sound like I said will. I'm not quite sure what this series entirely entails. I know it's based on a series of books. I've never read said books. But it seems like an interesting fantasy series. It feels like a cross between The Witcher and Lord of the Rings to a certain extent. That basically there's a main character. She's almost like, not necessarily a sorcerer supreme, but it seems like she's in that vein, and she's got 5 people under her. Like they're fighting against this dark one, and that one of those 5 will be kind of like the champion, the chosen one. She just doesn't know which one. So it just seems magical, kind of high fantasy series. Just from what we got from the trailer, it seems interesting. Once again, I just don't have the full context of everything that's going down. Obviously, you get the full context when the actual show drops, but it seems pretty interesting, so I'm excited to check it out. On November 24th on Disney Plus, we have the new series Hawkeye, which I'm very excited about. Probably one of the things I'm looking forward to the most this month. This continuing with Hawkeye stories in the aftermath of Endgame, pretty much like WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm excited to check this out. Just from what we've seen from the trailer, it feels very Die Hard-esque, and just like, oh man, old man Hawkeye getting the crap beat out of him. He's not just on top of, you know, dealing with like mobsters and gangsters, crossing paths with Kate Bishop, and she's kind of like, he's kind of taken her under his wing, and just like shenanigans ensued. Like the show, just from the trailer alone, it seems so fun, and like I said, Die Hard-esque. I'm very, very excited to see where the story takes us, but obviously it is part of the MCU, so what this means, obviously it's set up for Kate Bishop in the MCU, what this means for her story, what this means for Hawkeye's story going forward, a lot of, what other things they are setting up as well. I'm excited, just what it means for the greater MCU, but just for the show in general, I'm excited. And finally, on November 25th on Netflix, we have a new series, Super Crooks, an animated series, a very anime-style series. This is kind of taking place in the Mark Millar universe that, they sadly canceled. Jupiter's Legacy is taking place in. This might be that other series that I know it's supposed to take place at least in that universe. Basically, you're following a whole group of supervillains as they're doing villainy stuff like robbing places and stuff like that. It's so interesting because it's not that often you get to like partake in like your main view is through the bad guy's lens, and it's kind of interesting to kind of get that perspective from the trailer. So to get that perspective from the series as they have to go up against heroes, because you're kind of like, oh, these are going to be the bad guys, so you're going to be kind of rooting for them. And they're not, I mean, we don't know in the grand scheme of that. We see them robbing and stuff like that, but are like they the worst people? Who knows? We'll have to wait for the series to come out. But as someone who really enjoyed Jupiter's Legacy, which is kind of bummed that it's not continuing, but it is kind of living on through, I think, this as well as other, well, because we know Mark Millar is also doing I believe it's Mark Millar. I hope I'm not mistaken in that. But obviously, like other properties of him are getting adapted for Netflix. But this being the latest one. But I'm excited to ultimately check it out. Just from what we saw, it seemed like high octane villain action as villains like go toe to toe with like one particular superhero who's trying to stop them from doing their thing. So it just seemed really interesting from what we've seen. And that brings this month's watch list to an end. Like always, if there's something that's coming out that maybe I wasn't aware of, that you're aware of, that you think maybe me or someone else might be interested in, don't be afraid to leave it in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.